So we have a very special guest today on the pod. I actually came across her work in education as I was doom scrolling at TikTok. It was one of those moments where it was just negative news after day in the life videos. And all of a sudden I like scroll up on her TikTok and I felt immediately inspired, immediately calmed, immediately creative. She was educating on a topic that I really care about from a new perspective. So I knew I immediately had to reach out and see if she would be willing to come on and share a traditional Chinese medicine perspective on the pod. So she is a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine, the founder of Felice Acupuncture in LA, a co-founder of Moonbo, a traditional Chinese medicine inspired skincare company. Dr. Felice Chan, welcome to Wellness Fixes the Pod.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that intro. I feel honored to be here. And what TikTok video did you come across?
It was one of the menstrual cycle ones. We just did the menstrual cycle program. And so I think my algorithm was just tuned to that. And I loved it. I'll have to go back and actually see. But I was like, oh my gosh, she's speaking my language, but from an entirely new perspective. So I think I immediately rushed and followed you on everything. And then I was like, let me see if she'll come on and give us that, like her perspective on a lot of these issues that we all deal with. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for TikTok algorithm for throwing me into your feed.
I know. Like, this is why I doom scroll, to find videos like yours where I feel educated and inspired. So
that means the world.
Education and content is just like the Wild West. So you are inspiring people and you've inspired me. And that's why I wanted to have you on.
Oh, thank you.
I was trying to think, when was the first time that I was introduced to traditional Chinese medicine? And when I was thinking back, it was probably when I was a new grad PT, and I was really bonding with this patient who was a retired gymnast, and we were both retired gymnasts, like high intense youth level athletes. And she had opened up about the loss of her period at the very tail end of her gymnastics career and then into retirement as well. And she said she was trying everything. And when she finally tried acupuncture after her mom's recommendation, she said that was the one thing that helped her to regain her period. And it was probably the first super concrete, super real life example that I had on the impacts of traditional Chinese medicine on a woman's life. And I wanted to ask you, like, from her perspective and things like the loss of a period or PCOS or hormonal imbalances or all of these sort of trending topics right now in women's health, how do you view it? And how does traditional Chinese medicine view some of those common issues?
I love that you brought it up because it's so common. I see it all the time in clinic. And I think it's easier to break down from a Chinese medicine perspective what our vital substances are. So we have blood, we have qi, which is this energy that courses through our body, through our meridian system. And then we also have jing, which is our essence. And all of these components are integral parts of our reproductive system, whether they're in the organ itself, in our meridian system. And when you overwork, let's say a gymnast who is extremely athletic, they're likely at a blood deficiency and a qi deficiency because of how much activity they're doing. And Chinese medicine is all about balance. And so when we focus too much on losing this blood or jing through activity, it becomes deficient. And so that's why someone doesn't have a bleed, right? They're getting into their reservoir that is less and less. And so Chinese medicine, the whole point of it is to boost what is deficient. And so in this case of a athlete losing their period, one of the best things that they can do is rest, get acupuncture, take some herbs, eat in a certain way that boosts this blood and jing and essence to make their period come back.
So for acupuncture, like she had mentioned, acupuncture is the specific practice that helped. What do you feel like it was about acupuncture that possibly helped her gain her period?
So acupuncture essentially opens up our energetic meridian system that's connected to our reproductive organs. And so with this movement, with these acupuncture needles, it's opening areas to move blood flow, to move blood tonification properties through our digestion. For example, if she's eating something, maybe her digestion isn't processing the food, then leading to the blood that makes her bleed. And so acupuncture essentially brings everything back into balance to create this flow happen again.
And can you go into essence a little bit more? Like what, from a kindergarten standpoint, because this is the first I'm actually learning about essence. So can you dive into that a little bit more?
So essence, translated to Jing in Chinese, is a component that is really important for our kidneys. So our kidneys hold this jing. And it's almost like our genetic material that we're born with from our parents, but also can be worked on in this lifetime. So there's two components. And so, for example, if someone is overworking, it gets into their qi depletion, gets into their blood, and the last level is this jing. And so when they get into this jing, they're essentially pulling into their genetic material, what they had before. And so it puts them in a reservoir that is negative, essentially. And so to keep our jing alive is so important. That's why rest is important, finding balance, because we don't want to eat into this reservoir that gives us our vitality to help us age gracefully.
I love that too, because yeah, it's all like a completely new perspective on some of these very common issues for a lot of women. And I feel like it's super duper helpful because there's so many stories where I hear of just, yeah, different hormonal challenges that people have and trialing all sorts of different, I'd say like Western medicine components to help. But they might be forgetting this whole other side of things where it's if we could look at it from a different lens and actually understand some of the like flow of energy within our bodies and how that impacts our menstrual cycle, our hormonal regulation from throughout the lifespan. I'm sure menopausal women and postmenopausal women also have something very similar to this. Maybe not like loss of a period or anything, but different things that you look at for that. So I think that is just a nice like perspective to have too. Are there any sort of practices? You mentioned a few for if someone does have, let's say, like irregular periods or a loss of a period for a significant amount of time or any sort of, yeah, practices that you would recommend for those sorts of patients?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about any type of imbalance with a period, whether it's amenorrhea, which is the loss of a period, or dysmenorrhea, which is pain, or even PCOS, endometriosis, right? We have to understand what is the root cause. And for everyone, it's going to be different because everyone has a different environment. They have different things they eat. But I think one common factor for everyone with some type of period imbalance is managing their stress levels. Because in Chinese medicine, our liver, which is what we know as our detoxing process, is the organ that holds stress. And if it's off balance, it can't produce the blood to a great extent for us to bleed regularly. And so I always recommend deep breathing, meditation, journaling, any type of mindfulness that creates some type of peace for someone.
Are there any instances where you would, I know I mentioned like high level athletes, but is there any instance where you would actually say someone has not even too low of stress, but where you would actually prescribe like movement or an increase in like good stress in a certain way in order to help balance everything out?
I wouldn't necessarily say enhancing good stress, right? Cortisol is something that we all need. It's what helps us get up in the morning. It gives us the energy. But I think because we live in a world that is so fast paced, too much cortisol is more common. So I would recommend movement that is more gentle, more so for the movement of qi or this energy rather than for the increase of good stress. Because a Chinese medicine principle is that when there's free flow of qi, this energy, there's no ailments that happen. And as soon as there's a blockage, that's where we start to feel any health issues from headaches, period imbalances. So these gentle movements could be what we say qigong or tai chi in Chinese medicine, or it could be yoga or Pilates or even just walking.
For different people, are there different timing of these things for like movement or stress like throughout the day? Is there, I guess, a circadian rhythm per se of energy flow throughout the day?
Yes, I love how you mentioned this or asked this because, again, the premise of Chinese medicine is balance. It's the yin and the yang. And in simple terms, the yin is the dormancy, our rest, it's nighttime. Yang is our energy, daytime, it's the morning. And so it's almost relevant to cortisol, for example. When you wake up, cortisol should be higher, our energy should be elevated to give us the momentum for the day. But at the end of the day, it should return. And so in general, we should see these energy spikes during the sun, when the sun is out versus at nighttime, it's separate. So that's the general flow of how our bodies should be. But we see issues when that is imbalanced, right? When cortisol spikes at nighttime and someone can't sleep.
So speaking of stress and different mental health challenges and anxiety. I know you educate a lot on this, and it's something that's very near and dear, I think, to your heart, but then also to mine, because I'm sure you've experienced it with family and friends and possibly with yourself, as I have as well. So, how does traditional Chinese medicine, how do you view anxiety and just different mental health challenges in yourself and then also in your patients?
Yeah. Oh, I love this one too. I think acupuncture and Chinese medicine is one of the best ways to switch our nervous system from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. And we get too elevated when our body's stuck in that sympathetic state, right? So, what are practices that we can do ourselves to switch our nervous system? And we all know that the vagus nerve is so central to switching our nervous system, even if you go to acupuncture. But there's ways that you can take control of this with acupressure points that you can massage yourself, but also breathing techniques, for example.
Most people exist on this continuum, of course, but there's two sort of main things that I'm thinking of. One being this like low grade chronic level of anxiety or stress where you don't really have a reason for it, but for some reason it's just there for a long period of time. And then there's these moments in time where you might have a stressful final exam or a stressful practical or an interview you're super excited about or a conversation where you have this sort of intense spike. Do the practices that you recommend change depending on what type of anxiety or the length of time that you're experiencing it?
Yes and no. Again, everyone is individual, and the root cause for their anxiety could be different. So then, yes, the acupressure points that I recommend, the food that I recommend would be different. However, I think there's simple practices that work for everyone. For example, deep breathing into the belly and making sure the diaphragm is active, because when we activate the diaphragm, it activates the vagus nerve. And then it's like a door that opens and we can sit in our parasympathetic rest and digest state. Another one that I love is massaging your ears or massaging like right under the earlobe. And amazingly, it's an acupressure point that is relevant to also the nervous system in our body. But it also is an area where the vagus nerve passes through, right? It passes through the ears. So just massaging, activating that can relax someone pretty immediately.
I feel like those are always the things that I go to, especially the deep breathing, where I'm a pelvic floor piece, diaphragm, pelvic movement, like all of that is my you're speaking my language. So I love it. But it's some things that are quick because all of a sudden your heart rate will spike and your nervous system freaks out. So I love the way you put it that deep breathing helps to open that door to that parasympathetic. And I love the visual of like actually sitting in my parasympathetic nervous system and sitting in this sort of like room of calm. So I'm going to definitely carry that visual with me for sure.
Oh, I love that.
Switching gears a little bit to another topic that I feel like you are very passionate about and a lot of women struggle with, but gut health and digestion and bloating. How do you approach that with your patients and also with yourself too, just in your day-to-day
Yeah.
life?
So gut health is central to our well-being, right? It's in Chinese medicine, we say it's the spleen and stomach. They're the first organs that actually receive food, and they have to be strong, right? In its function of transforming food and fluids, of pushing the foods into our intestines to absorb. And when it's a little bit off balance, that's when we start to see any gut issues from bloating, digestive issues, stool issues. And my biggest tip from a Chinese medicine standpoint is we have to listen to our body, right? We're human beings, we're nature beings, and we're warm blooded. And because we're warm blooded, warm food, warm drinks, room temp drinks are really vital to creating a strong digestive system.
Is there any difference? I'm thinking right now, completely based on what we're fed with advertisements and social media, but on like cold plunge versus sauna. And I know
Oh.
a lot of the time right now, it's focused for everyone. But recently, I've been hearing more and more research showing that sauna is actually better for women compared to adding in that cold because our bodies respond better to heat compared to cold. And it's reminding me of what you're talking about. So, is there any differences between men and women when it comes to how traditional Chinese medicine views those sorts of things?
So again, there's the feminine, the masculine, and women are more feminine energetically as well. And meaning that we are more yin, men are more yang. Yang again is hot, yin is cold. So when you put cold and cold, it puts you further off balance, right? It makes you even colder. Hence why a lot of research now is showing that women do need more warmth. And even just the way that our body metabolizes and deals with homeostasis, we don't need as cold. From a Chinese medicine perspective, I would say if you're in your period, do not cold plunge. It's going to make your period worse because we need a warm uterus, we need warm womb, and physically putting our body in cold is going to stagnate everything and cause more issues. However, not to say woman can't cold plunge. And from like my perspective, and I know it's a specific perspective, to start hot and hot. So contrast therapy is something that I do recommend, but not just a cold plunge for women because it can be too shocking to their body, which then spikes their cortisol, affects their hormones, creates more issues in the long run.
Definitely compared to men too, right? Like men might not have that same response.
Exactly.
I feel like it totally relates to what you were saying about listening to your body too, because I feel like some people say they like the cold, but for me, I'm just like, you know what? The warmth feels good. And I like the idea of sandwiching, starting hot, maybe if you do enjoy cold or if your body responds well to cold or needs cold, and then ending with the warm too, just to help everything come back to a little bit more centered of a point. Because yeah, I've noticed even too, I know you post a lot about just warming foods and different things like that, where when my stomach is experiencing some of these things, I've noticed that incorporating some of that really does help. So for something I'm thinking like travel, I know my digestion really freaks out with travel and constipation, especially like it doesn't matter if it's a road trip, if it's air travel, whatever it is, there is some sort of physical stressor that causes my digestive system to freak out. So, are there any sorts of things that you recommend for someone, and not just for travel, but let's say they even went out for a meal with friends and experienced some bloating after a happy hour or something? Are there things that you would recommend for those sorts of circumstances?
Yes, absolutely. It's funny, I just made a travel series of a lot of issues that come about. And with constipation, there's two main buckets of why that happens. It's an emotional stagnation. It's our stress holding everything in. We don't want to let go because we're on high alert. And the other thing is dehydration, right? There's too much dryness in the intestines, hence why we can't pass stools. And so for constipation, truly the best thing, again, is to breathe and relax the body. Hence why people are just like, oh, if I safe in my home again, I can pass stools because their body is surrendering and able to let go. The second thing is hydrate with electrolytes, with even Celtic salt in their water, lemon water, whatever they need to do to increase hydration can help. And with bloating, on the other hand, my favorite is fresh ginger tea. Wherever I travel, you can always find ginger at supermarkets, right? And I'll literally get a thumb size, chop it up, boil it in hot water for about 10-15 minutes until it's spicy and drink it. And that is one of the most effective things to debloat.
And would you do that preventatively and reactively? If you know you're going to be flying somewhere, do you ever recommend people preventatively utilize ginger tea or ginger water or some other TCM practice before to if they know that they might possibly have some of those digestive or gut health issues?
Because the energetics of ginger is so warm. It's so warm for the digestive tract and also our stomach, our spleen. And so when we have a warm belly, it's actually able to absorb everything that you consume in the future. And you can almost think about it from a digestive enzyme perspective, right? Digestive enzymes work at an optimal at a warm temperature of 37, 38 Celsius, or I think 98.6 Fahrenheit. So when you're able to add that warmth before, and then, someone drinks like a cold beverage on the plane, you're going to have that opposition that's already warmer.
I'm one of those people that is like room temp water. I feel like a lot of the European way of doing things is without ice. And I'm like, thank goodness.
Exactly.
Anytime I travel to Europe, I'm just like, oh, finally, my way of drinking water.
Yes, and I'm glad you think so too. Even in Asian culture, I grew up drinking only room temp water and hot water. Like everywhere you go at restaurants, they give you hot water, like in a tea kettle.
I'll pre-drink water before I go into an American restaurant because I know that the water they're going to give me is going to have so much ice in it. Even if I ask without ice or whatever, sometimes they forget and I don't want to be a hassle. So I'll just pre-drink some water because I'm like, I need this like warmer room temp water. And anytime they come out with the glass carafes with no ice in it. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Oh,
this
I
is my
love
type of
that. I'm the
hot.
person that will ask for a hot lemon water. When they go around asking what drinks do you want, I'm like, I'm so sorry, that's not too much. Can I have a hot lemon water? And they always have it.
I'm gonna have to start bringing ginger too on in
Yeah.
pre and during my
Yeah.
travel
And there's
too.
so many brands that have dried ginger powder that you can just put in hot water and drink it. And so it's easily transportable. Honestly, there's Trader Joe's has a great one, and it's organic, it's clean, and it's just ginger. And it comes in little pouches, so it's easy to carry.
That's perfect. Yeah, I always have to look at the herbal because anything with caffeine, it just messes me
Yeah.
all up too. So I'm like, oh, anything herbal ginger or ginger, just plain ginger. I need to find that. So Trader Joe's, that's awesome. So I do want to talk too about skincare. And I know you have Mobo, which is a
Yes.
traditional Chinese medicine inspired skincare company. So give me just a little bit of the TCM perspective on different skin issues and different things like acne and things that we've all struggled with at one point or another.
I think at this point, most of us know that our skin is a manifestation of our health inside. And depending on what your skin shows, whether it's eczema, psoriasis, or acne, it's showing that there's an imbalance inside that is off its happy point, right? Because with this imbalance, inflammation happens, which is what we see on the skin. No one is the same. And acne is very nuanced because we have acne that is more damp, for example, which is more cystic. You see the pus in it, it's painful. You also have the acne that can be drier or even acne that is redder. And so the type of acne is an indication of what imbalance is happening in your body, but also where on the face it is, because we have a face map. Organ systems go to the face. We have channels that run through the face. So it gives us so much information. And I think to make it simple, one of the biggest advice I can give is that acne is some type of heat that is rising in the body. Just like in the environment, heat rises, it does so in our body. And so, what is causing this imbalance of heat? For a lot of women, at least in my experience, I had pretty debilitating acne issues post birth control and resorted to Chinese medicine to heal my body holistically. And my issue was that I had a deficiency of, let's say, blood, meaning my periods were a little bit lighter. I had dry skin. My hair was thinning. It's almost some signs of anemia, but I didn't hit that. And when I'm deficient in blood, it leaves room for things to enter, such as heat. And heat can come from diet, stress. And stress was a huge thing I was dealing with then. And so, in order to figure out how to heal my acne, I really had to sit down daily to figure out what my triggers were. And it's not just food triggers, but emotional triggers. And so, with that, how can I clear this heat? And you can clear it with acupressure points that are amazing to clear heat, but also with food and herbs that are extremely cooling. So, again, it's all about this balance. If there's too much hot, I want something cold to dissipate this heat.
So where are some of the primary like blockages that you see? What are some of the primary areas of concern that you treat for not even just skincare issues, but just a lot of different issues? Are there some primary areas that you see within your patients where it's, okay, I definitely want to check here, I definitely want to check here, and I definitely want to check here for any number of, and I know that's such a broad question, but any number of issues that we might experience? Are there some go-to things where you're like, usually I definitely have to check the spleen, usually I'm checking the liver, usually I'm checking these particular
Yeah.
areas?
I think what I see the most is a combination of imbalances in many organs, but the organs that I see the most are what you said, the spleen and the liver, and sometimes the kidney. The kidney, especially if I'm dealing with menopausal issues or someone with pain who's a little bit older. But again, our spleen is the center of our digestion. It's a center of our chi or energy that loves consistency and it loves warmth. And so people will come in, let's say, with extreme fatigue and they haven't had a breakfast or not eating regular breakfast and haven't for 5, 10 years. And the biggest advice, I'm like, if you can have a breakfast, a protein rich, warm breakfast, ideally, do it for 2 weeks, you're going to feel transformed. And a lot of the other issues that you feel will start to dissipate, such as our water retention, our grogginess, our brain fog. It's all going to dissipate. And the another thing that I see is the liver imbalance, because again, the liver is the center of our stress, frustration, and anger. And it's in the center of our body. It sits underneath our right rib. And so energetically, when the liver is stagnant, it's holding all our energy in the center of our body and it can't create a flow of energy and blood. So we have cold hands, cold feet, we have shallow breathing, and that's really the center and premise of anxiety and depression.
Yeah, because the breathing definitely would affect positively the vagus nerve. And if you're not able to access that,
Exactly.
yeah, totally. I'm loving how it's connecting so much to what I do day to day as a physical therapist, and especially as a pelvic health specialist, because breath work is just so huge. And to know that there is such a positive benefit from like a physical therapist perspective and from a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine perspective is wonderful because, yeah, it just goes to show that even such an ancient practice as traditional Chinese medicine, which is even long before any sort of practice that I've been in, it's withstood the test of time to know that breathwork is one of those constant things that you can go to access different parts of your nervous system, different parts of the flow of energy within your body to help things like anxiety and like some of the other things that you had mentioned
Yeah.
too.
When we think about breath, it's the one thing we need to live, right? It's our prana, it's our air chi. And without it, we don't function as a living being. So to return to breath, to slow down for truly any ailment or issue is extremely beneficial.
You mentioned that women are the yin and men are the
Yes.
yang, and women yin is
Yes.
cold
Yes.
typically. What are other, we've mentioned a lot about the warming things that you would possibly add or ways to dissipate heat. What are some of the like cooler components that you might add to a patient who might actually have too much heat and need a little bit more of those cooler
Exactly.
components?
A patient with heat can even be a woman with some menstrual issues. And the heat, I would say, I could see it in their liver. And it almost is synergistic to the liver detoxing process. And there's too much heat in it. It's causing inflammation, it's causing itchy skin, it's causing breakouts, but also a imbalance period. And so when I think about cooling foods, I think about bitter foods. So in Chinese medicine, herbs and food all have an energetic component to it. It's not that, oh, I eat something that physically is cold with ice. It's more so about the food itself has a cooling property. And so when I think about bitter foods, arugula, dandelion greens, bitter melon, I'll even collard greens, for example, are really cooling and detoxing for the liver, or even barley grass greens, which is so effective at clearing out the liver, especially like post birth control use, because there's so much stagnation and heat. So, again, it's that balance. Then finding foods and teas that can naturally and gently cool the body, but doesn't throw your body off balance.
So you mentioned arugula, and
Yes.
I know there is a lot of talk out there of like fibrous vegetables and just different, I'm thinking primarily vegetables that like cold salads and arugula that might not be sauteed or something and causing some of those digestive
Yes.
issues. Is there something to be said about warming some of these cooling ingredients to make them a little bit more tolerable for people in traditional Chinese medicine? Or because I love arugula, there are some, I can't think of foods right now, but even if there is like this very fibrous salad or vegetables where you think, oh, this is healthy for me, this is good for my body, but my body doesn't tolerate it as well for some reason compared to if I like actually put in my own heat externally into these foods.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that you can do. Actually, cooking or stir frying, let's say arugula or kale is something that triggers a lot of people. It's going to help your body digest it easier. If someone does love raw arugula, it's something that I eat actually quite often, but I take it out of the fridge. I let it hit room temperature before I eat it. You can also add a dressing or components that are warmer. For example, I like to add a ginger dressing to something that's raw because ginger is hot. So again, it's finding that balance that works for your body. And it's not to say all raw food is bad for people because it's really cold in nature and hard to digest. But if you have digestive issues, to limit raw food, cold smoothies, raw salads will benefit you in the long run so that then you can consume it later.
Yeah, I'm pulling in a lot of personal experiences, but I know as exactly as you said, it's all like totally dependent upon the individual person and what their body actually presents with and what you find during your examination and during everything. So I appreciate you even just like sprinkling in a few tips and tricks that are just general, even though I know it completely depends on the person and the human in front of you. I do want to know, I love day in the life videos and just learning about other people's routines. So can you walk us through just a day in your life where you're utilizing some of these traditional Chinese medicine practices to help with certain things throughout your day?
Yes. Oh my gosh, absolutely. To me, my morning is sacred. I always start with a hot cup of lemon water. And I realized I was sharing this on socials the other day. The amount of lemon that people are putting in drastically is different. Just literally a small wedge or a few drops of lemon is all you need. Because people were saying, oh, it destroyed my teeth. It's so sour. I can't drink it. In my head, I'm like, oh, okay, that is too much. It shouldn't be affecting your teeth. But the lemon, again, is acidic. And when you put it in your body, it causes an alkaline shift. And there's a lot of research about alkalinity and higher immunity, but also the hot water. It's something that it's almost like a hug to your digestive system. And it's going to prime you to be able to absorb everything for the rest of the day. So that is a non-negotiable that I start with every single day. Something that I also love in my morning is mindfulness, whether it's journaling, meditation, breath work. It's just my time to settle. It's my yin, what I like to say.
I love those too. And I think it's refreshing, I guess, just to see it in practice too and know like how to incorporate some of those things in your own life. And like you said, in the morning before your day, who knows what's gonna come from it
Exactly.
too. So when you're thinking about fueling or movement, are you thinking how if I feel in a balanced state, how can what I consume or what I add to my day be balanced as well? If you are feeling just like super in alignment and everything is okay, I'm doing really well today. Are you making sure not to throw off that balance throughout the day with how you move or how you eat?
Yes, I think I've come to a place where, even the quick meals I grab from the fridge that I cook are things that don't irritate my body. And again, everyone's individual. So when I start feeling great for the day, I want to continue that momentum. So being intentional about what I do, the food I eat, to keep up this elevated level of balance. And the more and more you do it, the easier it gets. And so it becomes a holistic wellness lifestyle rather than a habit itself.
It's also reminding me too, they say start your day with healthy patterns and you're better able to continue those throughout the
Mhm.
day. And I'm trying to link this back to a traditional Chinese medicine perspective. But my thought is if you are feeling very energetically balanced and in alignment, your body is going to seek that out even more throughout the day too, where you're going to choose
Exactly.
certain things and certain routines and certain patterns and not want throw that off at all. So whereas if you're starting from this lower energetic place or off balance at all, that's when we might reach for some of the sugary foods or something like that where we're craving those later in the day because we're trying to possibly make up for that energy shift. Is that
Yes. Yes, 100%. Oh, I love how you phrased it that way. Because again, it's all about polarities and contrast. We don't know how to feel good unless we feel pretty crappy at times, right? And so we know the imbalances. And so if you're starting the day off with this higher vibration, your chi, this flow of energy is moving through every part of your body, there's no stagnation. You're going to seek out things that match its vibration, whether it's clean, whole foods, sitting out in the sunshine, going for a walk, getting a coffee with a close friend. And as soon as something comes into your day, whether it's a stressful call, a meeting, some unpredictable things that happen all the time, your body's going to tighten up. Your breath is going to slow down. It's just going to constrict. And so then we're aware, oh, this is a huge contrast of how good I was feeling. So again, it's tuning into how we feel, how we are as humans, it's just being extremely self-aware.
I love it. Okay, before we end and before we sign off, is there anything I know we've covered so much today, but is there anything that we haven't covered today that you're like, I really think that people need to know about this?
I would love to dive deeper into Moonbow. And the reason for it is it's a Chinese medicine skincare line. It has amazing Chinese herbs and a combination of them that work synergistically together to enhance its properties, to help with a stronger skin barrier, to help with any breakouts, any eczema, but also is so gentle. But I think the whole purpose of creating a skincare line is to share Chinese medicine on a wide scale because our skin is the biggest organ in our body. A lot of people are aware of how they look, of beauty, but it's also an understanding of, again, what's happening inside the body. And through Moonbow, we always educate and we always incentivize, put on skincare routine, find this yin, this meditation that you have, but also drink a tea that is detoxing for the body. So how can we find balance?
And how can you approach it holistically too? Because I know
Exactly.
I feel like most people think of traditional Chinese medicine from the inside out, but you guys are also looking at it from the outside in too, because like you said, the skin is our largest organ. And if we're thinking about the spleen and the liver and just different things, okay, wait, but what about the encasing of it all too? And how can we truly help that too? So I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that too. And I'll leave all of the links to Moonbow Skin below and all of Dr. Felice's social media links and her website if you happen to be in Los Angeles and would like to go see her. She is a light and just a wonderful resource for all sorts of education on TikTok, Instagram, all of it, because yeah, I've learned so much even just from scrolling, and she truly is such an inspiring and calming presence for your oftentimes not calming and not inspiring TikTok or Instagram feeds. So I love it.
Thank you. That means the world.
Dr. Felice, thank you for taking time out of your day to share your expertise and education in traditional Chinese medicine with us. I have learned so much from all of the education that we've learned today, and then also all of the content that you're putting out there. And I'm so grateful we got to dive into some of those topics today. So thank you so much. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and learned just as much as I did, because it was just wonderful to have her on. Again, I'll leave all the links below if you want to find out more, and I'll see you guys again on the next episode of Wellness Fixes the Pod.